We'll start with the session 2. This is on money, muscle, and elections in India. Dr. Vipul Mudgal will be chairing it. And the focus areas are election funding and campaign expenditure. Can you just tell people to move in and not to make a racket outside, please?
Radhika, in a meeting, I'll call you.
Winnability and candidates with criminal antecedents, factors driving the voter behavior on money and muscle power, women and youth representation in politics. We have very eminent speakers here. Honorable Mr. Justice Madan Lokurji is there, former judge of the Supreme Court. Ms. Reena Gupta, State Secretary of Aam Aadmi Party. Mr. Krishna Alavaru, Joint Secretary of the AICC and National in charge of the Indian Youth Congress. And Dr. Jeet Singh Maan, Director, Center for Transparency and Accountability in Governance, and a teacher and professor in legal education and research in the National Law University, Delhi. Uh, I'll leave it to Dr. Vipul to introduce the panelists, but a brief word about him. He's a trustee of and also the director of Common Cause, which makes legal and policy interventions. He also heads the Inclusive Media for Change project, which works to highlight the issues of India marginalized and is based at the Center for Study of Developing Societies, CSDS. And earlier, he's held senior editorial positions at the Hindustan Times, India Today, BBC World, Asia Times in India, the UK, and the Southeast Asia. He has his PhD in Media Studies from University of Leicester as Nehru Centenary Fellow, and he works on the intersection of media, democracy, and political violence. Another announcement for some people who came late, there are a lot of mobiles ringing. Kindly switch off your mobiles. And with that, I think, Dr. Vipul, over to you.
Thank you. Thank you, General Verma. And I think the day began very well with Professor Tiloshan Shastri setting the tone of the meeting. And after that, two of our luminaries, Professor Jagdeep Chonkar and S.Y. Qureshi ji, who always comes for our meetings. So please don't get angry. We make you sometimes, we provoke you. But I think your presence is very much required, and I think the clarifications you gave today, although we don't have any clarification on what Paranjagua Thakurta asked about the sudden resignation of one of the election commissioners, which is like very concerning for all of us, and I'm sure the political parties are watching. And one thing I would like to say is that somehow the political parties are not as proactive in taking up these issues as we would want them to be, and it's very surprising on criminals' participation in politics and in elections, on money power, on muscle power, on whole lot of these issues. I mean, these are the stakeholders. They just retreat. They just take a back seat. They don't come forward. And there have been attempts by ADR. In fact, in the past, we have invited leaders of political parties, senior leaders. They avoid coming because they feel that there will be questions and things like that. We are happy that we still connect. We are able to get people, and there is evidence on both sides. We have people like that. Let me say that money power and muscle power that we are discussing after such sophisticated issues of technology that we discussed is like discussing bank robbery after kind of really, really minute and sharp issues. But this is the crux. Actually, these two issues are so intricately intertwined that it's difficult to separate money power and muscle power. Just see last 1 or 2 months what kind of news is coming out in the media about money power and muscle power. Sandesh Khali, there's one Shahjahan ji. Is he money power or muscle power? Is he like he's a land grabber? He's the lord of the place. What power? It's like both and more. What about Brajbhushan Sharan Singh? Near Ayodhya, he apparently rules the whole area. He has a helicopter parked at the back. Do I have to say anything about his money power? And the muscle power. My God, I mean, the muscle power of the entire might of India's wrestlers is nowhere compared to his. But so money power and muscle power coming together is is a reality and the biggest reality of Indian elections. We do understand every time we see this beautiful dance of democracy, that huge election, incredibly large geographies, incredibly big challenges, and we do beautifully. Our elections are an example of great management anywhere in the world. But this has been under threat, there has been a decline. And I must mention this before I start today's discussion. There was a book by Professor Dipankar Gupta, a sociologist, in which he said that even if you are the most honest and most decent candidate in an election, you need muscle power. Don't think that money alone will get you through, because you should be either be able to create violence when you need it, or you should be able to stop violence when somebody else is doing it. And this was happening. I was taking part in somebody's election, and I was just moving around in that constituency just to get the flavor of it. And a very powerful candidate against this particular candidate that I was touring the constituency of had said that in the places where I am weak, I will not let your cadre go. I will not let you enter in places where I am weak. And I will not let your cadre enter the places where you are strong. You know? So, and kar lo kuch. मैं नहीं घुसने नहीं दूंगा अंदर कोई. So I remember Professor Dipankar Gupta saying that you should be able to stop this if somebody else is doing it against you. So you need muscle power, even if you are the most decent person. And I think Professor, there are many people who have written about this. Professor Chaukar has written, Qureshi Saab has written, that this is something which has been going on forever and will particularly, I think there is no sign of this receding right now. So with those opening remarks, I will start with Justice Madan B. Lokur, and let me say that you can say that he was the Chief Justice of Andhra Pradesh and Guwahati High Courts, and Judge of all that is fine, jurist is fine. Justice Madan B. Lokur is the moral compass of intellectuals of India. He's our conscience keeper, he's our leader, we look up to him every time there is a problem, and he calls a spade, although very softly and very, very decently. So over to you, sir.
I don't have that muscle power. Yeah, thank you, Vipul. I must begin with an apology to my panelists and to all of you. I have some other commitment actually, so I will be leaving soon. I will not be here for the rest of the session. So kindly excuse me. There are a few things that I would like to say about money power. I'm looking at it in the broader context, not in the context of, under the representation of the People's Act, for example, a candidate can spend 75 lakhs, for a Lok Sabha constituency, or 50 lakhs for an assembly constituency. I don't want to get into that because, that is meaningless. All of us know that when we talk about, the financial limitations under the law, they are completely meaningless. And the recent decision of the Supreme Court on the electoral bonds, I think, showed quite clearly that money is very, very important for elections, and political parties will do anything to get money so that they can, control whatever it is, whether it is, goons that Vipul was talking about, or whether it was managing, speeches, stage, travel, so on and so forth. So electoral bonds in that event were extremely important for political parties, and I'm glad that the Supreme Court has said that, it is unconstitutional. The question still remains, what is to be done with all that money, which was made available to the political parties. One way of looking at it is that the political parties were not before the Supreme Court, so the Supreme Court could not have passed an order against the political parties who are not before them that you please return the money. Another way of looking at it is that even if they were there, could the Supreme Court have said that you return the money? I mean, physically it may not have been possible. The political parties would have said that, we spent that money. Where do we get it from? So there are so many, nuances in the final order that the Supreme Court has passed. But also, I think now it's coming up tomorrow. Who are the persons who have donated? How much have they donated, and so on? That we'll get to know tomorrow. So I don't want to go into that. I want to look at it from a larger or a broader perspective. What I mean by that is that money power is definitely very, very important. So the idea is, how do you squeeze the state governments, or how do you squeeze the political parties and deprive them of their finances? So recently there has been a lot of talk about fiscal federalism. Now, if you remember, a couple of years ago, we had Mr. Arvind Kejriwal, who was then the Chief Minister of Delhi. He still is, saying that I'm an anarchist and I'm going to go on a dharna. All right. The cause was different, but he said, I'm going to go on a dharna. And there was a lot of criticism. People said that, oh, Chief Minister going on a dharna, what is all this going on? He should be far more responsible, and so on and so forth. So there was a lot of criticism. But what has happened in the recent past? We've had the Chief Minister of Karnataka coming to Delhi on a dharna. Why? Because he says that money is not being given to the state. All right. We've had the Chief Minister of Kerala coming to Delhi for a dharna. Why? Again, money is not being given to the state. In fact, the state of Kerala has gone to the Supreme Court and said that, listen, money is not being given to us. And the Supreme Court says, well, why don't you try and sort it out? Take 13,000 crores. Kerala has, as far as I know, so far refused to accept that amount. The Chief Minister of Tamil Nadu gave his support to the dharna by the Karnataka Chief Minister and the Kerala Chief Minister. They're not anarchists. Nobody has said they're anarchists. Nobody has criticized them. But the fact is that they feel that they are being deprived of finances, of money, which can be used for the betterment of their people, of the state. So Tamil Nadu says that we need money for metro, not being given. But when money is not being given by the Delhi government for the metro, Supreme Court says you better give it or else. So money plays a very important role in keeping the people of the state happy. Why? So that their candidates are in a position to win the elections. All right. So the other aspect of this fiscal federalism that these chief ministers have been talking about is that, apart from the fact that you're not giving us money or you're not giving money to our state, you're giving more than the requirement to some other state. So for every 100 rupees that we contribute, for example, to the kitty of the government of India, we are getting 15 rupees, we are getting 20 rupees, we are getting 30 rupees. What about the other states? They're getting 2 rupees, they're getting 3 rupees, 200 rupees or 300 rupees for every 100 rupees that they contribute. Now, why is that? If you just sit down and think about it, it is to keep the people of that particular state satisfied that good governance is happening, and therefore whenever our candidate has to stand for elections, whether it's in the assembly elections or whether it's in the Lok Sabha elections, vote for our candidate because you're getting what you want. That is one aspect of it. Another aspect of the use of money power is announcement of all kinds of projects. 30,000 rupees worth of projects are going to be announced. 40,000 rupees worth of projects are going to be announced. When the assembly elections were scheduled to take place last year, we had a flurry of such announcements. 20,000 crores here, 40,000 crores there, 30,000 crores here, and so on and so forth. Where does that money come from? Number one. Number two, is that money actually utilized? All right. Today we have an announcement, which I saw in the papers, that some 12 or 15 airports are going to be commissioned. Where is that money coming from? Who are the people who are going to utilize that? Is anything actually going to happen? Are those airports going to come in the near future? 5 months ago, when the elections took place in the assembly, in the various assemblies, huge announcements were made. 20,000 crores, 30,000 crores. What has happened? We really don't know. Now, in some instances, something has happened. For example, All India Institute of Medical Sciences, AIIMS, have been established in some places, but there are no doctors. So what is the point of establishing AIIMS? You have different kinds of educational institutions coming up. You have hospitals coming up, but there are no people over there to man the institution. But again, so much is being done for the state, so therefore vote for the candidate of the state. This is another aspect of that money power. The third aspect of money power, which the states also use, which everybody uses, and there was a lot of talk about it in the recent past, is freebies. All right. Now you say that women are going to be allowed free travel in buses. Maybe good, maybe bad. I'm not on that at all. You have different kinds of freebies that are being given. Now, they're not free as far as the state is concerned. I mean, they're free as far as the people are concerned. So the people are happy. I can travel in a bus without having to pay. Or I can do something else without having to pay for it. Free electricity, free water, free this, free that. Where is the money going to come from? Now, the state has to generate that money. And that money, if you look at it from the point of view of that fiscal federalism that I had just talked about, that money is not there. So, again, money power which is being used by a state government for the benefit of the people cannot actually be used because there is a shortage of funds that is coming in. So really all these announcements about freebies, free this, free that, is not working. There was a report recently about one of the states which has announced a lot of freebies in the last assembly elections, not having the money for that. How do you look at it? I mean, what do you do? The state government gets elected on the ground that we are going to give you freebies, but when it comes to money, they say we have no money. So then they go on a dharna. So it's that cycle of money which is going around and which is dominating our elections, which is dominating the selection of candidates and so on. So we really have this problem starting with the release of money and the utilization of money for elections. Just a word or two about muscle power, which Vipul had addressed. You have persons who are in a position of enormous influence because of muscle power. He has given two instances. You have the farmers agitating with regard to a third instance. A person whose son is believed to have killed people by running over, believed to have killed some farmers by running his jeep over them or running his convoy over them. What has happened? One of the things which the farmers have been saying is that remove this minister from the post, remove this person from the post of minister. Not done. Why? Perhaps because he has the money power or muscle power or both. Take action against the son who was responsible for these killings. Son was not available for a long time until it was decided that, listen, he has to be arrested. It can't go on like this. And he says that, I was somewhere else at that point of time. I was not even in the car. So that muscle power, I think is also combined with money power. It can't be in isolation. It's the people who have the money, who have the muscle, who are in a position to dominate the election and who are in a position to dominate the voting pattern of the people. So we talk nice things, about pro-incumbency, anti-incumbency, politics of unemployment, politics of something else. But the fact of the matter is, when you are at the ground level, it's the money that matters. It's the muscle power that matters. So thank you very much.
No, there's more time.
Yeah.
There's
No.
another minute.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you, Justice Lokur. And thank you also for raising the issue of government expenditure. I mean, it's money power, not money being spent by candidates or parties, but also by the government of India. I mean, if you, any part of Delhi, you go, come out of the airport and you find advertisement of Yogi ji and Modi ji paid for by the electorate, by the people of Uttar Pradesh, then people of Uttarakhand, people of, and if you don't find them, then you find pictures of Aam Aadmi Party leaders, Arvind Kejriwal ji at the back of every bus saying, "मैं lane में driving कर रहा हूँ." Thank you, sir. But you want my money for this? You know, it's my money which is going into telling me कि आप lane में driving कर रहे हैं. Thank you very much. So I think this is also, there's like billions of rupees being poured right now into the advertisements by people in power in every state. And who is leading is, no doubt about it, the central government. Thank you. And I'll call Reena Gupta, who's now very appropriately, since I mentioned Aam Aadmi Party ka advertising budget. I mean, Reena is an intellectual. She's a professional. She, like all Aam Aadmi Party leaders, she comes from a background of agroforestry and agricultural research. She's been part of World Bank. I've had the honor of being editor of a book in which she has contributed an article. And that article has been jointly written by her, Prashant Bhushan and Atishi Marlena. So I'm even more honored by that. So I invite you, please talk about do you use muscle power also sometimes? And of course, money power of the government we see. Thank you.
Thank you, Vipul. I think I want to first make an observation that why don't we have a representative from the world's largest democracy on this panel? It's conspicuously being missed. Were they invited or they? Okay, but no. Why not this session?
No.
Money muscle.
We have to divide it. I mean,
Yes.
unfortunately.
Okay.
And it is also not a TV debate, so we give all the time. Yeah.
Yes. So I think there's been a lot of discussion in the first panel also on how broken the system is. So I don't think I want to get into too much of detail of that. I mean, the most glaring example being one of the election commissioner resigning yesterday for mysterious reasons. Twitter is saying that Anil Masih is going to be the next election commissioner. I really hope not. I think most of you would know who Anil Masih was. He was the presiding officer for the Chandigarh mayor elections. So I hope that's not true. But also, I think there is no democracy in the world where the incumbent government chooses the election commission. And not even, I mean, we're not even talking about a full parliamentary scrutiny. There is no collegium. There's going to be no collegium now. It's going to be the government of the day that will choose the election commission. So we can only hope. I think it's going to be Ram Bharose, what kind of elections we're going to have moving forward. Having said that, I think the way forward for me has to be more and more political activists, public-spirited individuals, or anarchists, as you said, need to come into the system and really disrupt the system. That's how Aam Aadmi Party started. That's how I joined the government. I joined the political party. Because, we've been saying for a really long time now that the system is broken. There is money power. There's muscle power. In fact, there's a new muscle power now. It's institutionalized muscle power, which is ED and the CBI. So we don't even need Bahubalis. Now we have ED and CBI after us. 95% of all cases are against opposition leaders. Then we have washing machine politics that you force these leaders with ED and CBI, they join your party and they get washed and they become, Raja Harishchand and go on to become ministers and whatever else. So I feel that for me, the only way I see this changing, because at the end of the day, you have individuals and you have institutions. So we have to have individuals with the right kind of intention, and then we have to have institutions that make sure that once these individuals get elected, those institutions make sure that you deliver what you promised, so that you don't become corrupt and then you don't use money and muscle power. And that's where I think an independent election commission, good media, and clean money for politics. That's where I think that comes in. So, for example, when we started in Aam Aadmi Party, all our sources of funding were transparent. They were all on our website. Then we realized that after a while that everybody who had funded us was getting an income tax notice. They were all being harassed, and our funding was dried up. So we then decided not to disclose it publicly, but we anyways give all our accounts to the Election Commission and wherever else we are required to give. So I think we need more and more disruptors in the political system, and then we need clean sources of funding to be able to support those disruptors, and good institutions to make sure that once these disruptors have been elected, they make sure that political parties come under RTI. They make sure that they disclose their sources of funding. They make sure that they deliver to the last person, to the bottom of the pyramid, as they had promised. Because it's easy for us to sit here and laugh and say that, that chief minister is an anarchist, this one is sitting on a dharna, that one is sitting on a dharna. But if you go and talk to people who've been waiting for 70 years to get clean water, electricity, and schools, they would really want us to sit on dharnas. They would really want us to be able to deliver to those people that we've been promising for 70 years. And if that means that we have to sit on a dharna, we will continue to sit on a dharna. And I feel that we need more such people. We need more educated people. We need more people for whom politics cannot be their primary source of bread and butter. People who are not getting into the system to say that, okay, once I get elected, then I'm going to make more money out of the system. Because those are the kind of people that we've been electing for 70 years, and those people have not delivered. I think I'm going to stop there.
No, that's actually only 5 minutes. Please tell us something about how Aam Aadmi Party uses money.
How Aam Aadmi Party uses money.
And collects it. Yeah, why not?
So most of our donations are still crowdfunded. Whenever we contest an election, we put out the candidates and we put out the biodatas of the candidates. Last time around, when we had Atishi and some of these other people, we put it out on the internet, and all of it was crowdfunded. We contest elections very, very cheaply. We have an army of volunteers. Last year, on an average, we spent like 30-40 lakhs for an MLA election in Delhi. I think Delhi also, because the way Delhi is, it's easier to contest on a smaller budget. I mean, our accounts are all clean. You can see the accounts. And just going back to what the freebie discussion that was going on. Again, that's one of my favorite topics. Whenever there is anything given to poor people, we all start shouting, it's a freebie, it's a freebie. But at the same time, so any government, once the government has been elected, it's left to the government to manage its finances. All of us get taxes, then we figure out how to use that tax money. When 10,000 crores is written off for corporates and corporate taxes at its lowest, then none of the economists say anything. The moment you say that you're giving 1,000 rupees to every woman, every adult woman of Delhi, then becomes a freebie. There are innumerable studies by economists and public policy specialists who've said that money directly into the bank account of the woman makes a huge difference on human development indicators. So I think we need to also figure out how to classify freebies. So I feel that for the poor people living in Delhi, 200 units of electricity is a basic human right. Everybody getting clean drinking water is a basic human right. Having good schools, good hospitals, again free, is a human right. And I hope that these are the issues that we continue to contest on, and I hope these are the issues that people continue to vote for us, and we move to other states. And I hope that other political parties will emulate and compete with us and say, अच्छा आपने ये सब किया तो हम और 1000 नए स्कूल बनाएंगे. ये नहीं कि आपको जब अपना इलेक्शन का कैंपेनिंग करना पड़े तो यू हैव टू एक्चुअली स्टेट, आई डोंट वांट टू नेम द स्टेट, अ स्टेट वेयर यू बीन रूलिंग फॉर 40 years, वहाँ पे आपके पास एक स्कूल नहीं था, आपको एक मेकशिफ्ट टेंट में स्कूल बनाना पड़ा फोटो खिंचवाने के लिए. सो आई होप दैट दीज आर द इश्यूज which will be the campaign issues.
Yeah, to draw you out, may I also ask you, how do you use or face muscle power? Do you have to use it? Do you have to face it?
No, I think the two states where we have governments, we've never had to use muscle power or face it actually.
So mark her words. I mean, I hope it happens like that in other states also. But
Banks is more than a lakh crores, not 10,000.
Yes, yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah, I mean, just to correct her,
Sorry.
it's not 10,000 crores of assets that have been wiped out. It's more than a lakh.
yeah,
10 lakh.
Yeah, 10 lakh crores have been written off.
There you are.
So,
Yeah.
so thank you very much, Reena, for both the panelists have finished on time, and I think, I mean, it's no credit to me. It's it's them. So I have now from yeah, please.
Yeah, sorry. Sorry. Thank you. Sorry here.
Thank you, sir. Yeah. So we have, contrary to the image of a youth Congress worker, which is like, I mean, from my college days, I've been seeing a youth Congress worker has to have a SUV and has to look different. We have Mr. Krishna Alavaru, who is actually a different youth Congress worker. He heads Youth Congress, and he's also a general secretary, joint secretary of the party, and he's been a consultant with global consultancy firms. He's an entrepreneur, so a man who wears many hats. So please tell us about money and muscle power you have to sometimes use, sometimes face in politics. Thank you.
Thank you, Vipul. I'm happy that I look different at least. I am trying to be different. I'm trying to make a difference. Time will tell whether that comes through or not. I want to talk about the topic, picking up from where Reena kind of looked at it from. I think money and muscle in elections is probably a small part of the problem that we see today in politics. So if I would look at the elephant in the room, muscle and money that is being used in politics today, the biggest use is institutional use of muscle and money. Individual use of muscle and money, I would say, has existed, hopefully has reduced, hasn't disappeared. But what I think is new is the rate at which institutional muscle and money have been increasing. Now, somebody said that elections are just one part of democracy. And if you really want to understand the robustness of a democracy, you have to look at how power is being exercised between elections. And this is what, in my view, has changed dramatically and increasingly so the last few years. So let me frame this in some more parts, right? Now, for elections to be somewhat of a level playing field, and I understand that they're never going to be a perfectly level playing field, you need a framework of institutions which, over a period of time, become more robust, which become stronger, which become more impartial. Now, if you see how power has been exercised in the last few years, and let's talk about the pillars of democracy, and if I can use another word, in some ways, the channels of power once elections are contested and power is gained. The legislature, the judiciary, the media, the executive, and we'll talk about the election commission separately. Now let's talk about how muscle is being used in parliament. That's the most blatant use of muscle. You have mics being switched off, minor thing. You have words being expunged selectively, partially, partisanly, smaller thing. You have 140 MPs being disqualified in one day. Ridiculous thing. You have 2 MPs being disqualified, the member of parliament status being taken away for speaking in parliament against a crony capitalist. Insane thing. This is a small example of muscle in parliament, the highest power in a democracy. The fact that 2 MPs can speak up against a capitalist, seen to be close to the people in power, shows that institutional muscle and institutional money can blatantly operate in parliament. Let's talk about the executive. We heard about Brij Bhushan. It's ridiculous. Sure, Brij Bhushan is a muscle man, fine. But it is ridiculous that the institutions which were supposed to protect from the muscle men aren't able to file an FIR against a muscle man who's sitting less than 1 kilometer away from the parliament. Everybody knows what he has done. Why does the Supreme Court, after X months, have to intervene for an FIR to be filed? This is institutional muscle at play. This is not just Brij Bhushan, it is Brij Bhushan's bosses who control institutions, who are in constitutional positions which give him the power. That is muscle, institutional muscle. There was an example of a minister whose son mowed down farmers with his vehicle. Now, sure, that individual is a muscle man. But what were the institutions doing? Where was their muscle? That muscle was being deployed not to protect the farmers. It was being deployed to protect the very man who drove a car and mowed down people. That is institutional muscle. We have seen bulldozers razing people's houses. That itself is institutional muscle and unfairly, wrongly deployed quite often. But let me tell you a story that doesn't come in the news. There was one individual whose house was razed, arguably unfairly. A crowdfunding site was set up to raise funds for that individual to build new houses, build a new house. Common people who felt that that bulldozing was wrong donated at the crowdfunding site. Agencies were sent after each and every donor. That is institutional muscle. It's ridiculous. That we, as the world's largest democracy, are sliding down so fast that we don't even realize how far we have fallen. Let's talk about the media. Now, the Freedom of Press Index. Now, arguably, no index is perfect, but this is an index that is used across the world. Sure, it might not be perfect, but it's definitely indicative of a trend. Where 10 years ago, we were at a okay position, I wouldn't say we were at a great position, and I would have loved to see that 10 years later, we are at a better position than we were where we were 10 years ago. Where are we today? We have slid so far and so fast that we are now on that index, however perfect or imperfect it is, below Afghanistan and Pakistan. Now, unemployment in this country is high. And the BJP spokespersons are probably the ones whose job is most at risk, because their job is being done by most anchors and media owners. Now, if the media is not partial, if they bow to institutional muscle, if they bow to crony capitalist money, then the bigger problem is with the people who run these institutions. So the parliament has been twisted by institutional money and muscle. The executive has completely surrendered to institutional money and muscle. The media has been controlled, stifled, and directed by institutional money and muscle. Let's talk about the judiciary. I don't think that the judiciary has covered itself in flying colors. And I would have loved to say this when Justice Lokur was here. Not that he is at fault. Let me take the simple case of electoral bonds. This legislation was passed before the 2019 elections. It has been a cycle of 6 years. Over 30 to 35 elections have been conducted, and I'm talking about parliament and state level, forget the lower level elections. And the Supreme Court finally says, in 2024 February, electoral bonds are unconstitutional. The damage has been done. It has been done for the last 6 years. It was a matter of vital importance. Why couldn't you have done a stay then and fast-track the hearing?
Krishna, conclude. Another 2 minutes.
So judiciary has also been, in my view, twisted by institutional money and muscle. So where is the solution? The solution is not to begin with addressing individual musclemen and muscle. That's important, that's happening, it will happen. The bigger problem, the elephant in the room, the Titanic that we need to address and stop from sinking is Indian democracy. It is how power is exercised in between elections through parliament, through media, through judiciary, through executive. And one solution that I can put forward here is that any legislation or any attempt at undermining the power of these institutions, especially when it comes to protecting the democratic process, should require a referendum. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Krishna. And let me also tell you that the article that I mentioned that Reena wrote was on referendum. So maybe she can probably throw some light at the right time. Now I have Professor Dr. Jeet Singh Maan, is the director of the Center for Transparency and Accountability in Governance at National Law University, Delhi. He's a professor of law, and he's an expert and shall I say an activist also. He's an activist of RTI. I think among the professor community, academic community, he's among very few people in the country who can be described as activists of our right to information movement. So the floor is yours, sir.
Very good afternoon, friends. I'm J.S. Man. I'm a teacher, and teaching is my passion. So is the case of research also. So let us have some discussion regarding money and muscle power. And before that, I think disclaimer becomes very important because I'm a government servant. So I'm going to focus only on specific issues based on secondary data. I've collected some data from ADR's report, publication of ADRs, then some data from Election Commission of India, and some social media report. And on the basis of the particular data, I have examined some specific issues, money power, how the money power has contributed to the quality of election, and I'm going to discuss some data also. Number two, muscle power. Muscle power with respect to criminals entering into politics and the political parties exercising or using enforcement agencies to take care of sheet sharing, etc., etc. So I'll discuss some data pictures also, right? So next, please. See, what is important in case of governance? Election is very, very important in case of democratic country. And when it comes to participatory, I think democracy, it becomes very, very important that that voters are informed about all the details of candidates. And we expect free and fair election. We expect that elections are conducted without fear and without favor. But what is happening in really that operational or functional part of democracy, it is otherwise. And I believe that all political parties are responsible for that state of affairs, right? And I'll show that the data collected by ADR, and I'm going to examine that data also. Now, see, there is a judgment by Supreme Court long back in 1993, and the judgment is delivered by Justice J.S. Verma. And according to the judgment, see, we require, this is referred to elected representatives, that we require elected representatives with impeccable honesty and integrity in order to ensure that the rule of law is meticulously followed or respected. But where is the demand? Where is the demand for honesty and integrity in case of election process? Where criminals are elected, criminals are supported by political parties, all political parties. Data is available. Data has been, I think, nicely collected and examined by ADR. We'll discuss that data also. So if there is no demand for honesty and integrity, there is no supply also, because that demand determines the quality of elected representatives and how the muscle power is used. Of course, judiciary has really contributed to that advancement of quality of governance in election. Recent judgments, that ADR judgments regarding EBS, and that another judgment that Sita's Orange judgment, right, regarding accountability of elected representatives in case of cash for vote, etc., etc. So things are progressing because of some selective stakeholders, and credit goes to ADR and similar institutions, Common Cause also. So what is expected? I think collective endeavors are required. It can't be confined to Election Commission. Election Commission has failed miserably. It is evident from the data that is available in any case, right? So I'm going to discuss implications of money power and then muscle power on conducting election, and some findings and some recommendations in order to address those issues identified by us. Next, please. Right, see, money is a lifeline of election. You talk about any political party, see the resources, see that the funding of political parties, there is a nexus between, see, business houses or corporate houses and political parties. And this nexus is directly related to the quid pro quo. It is also evident, right? The data is available in the public domain. You know how so many relaxations have been, I think, given in favor of some specific business houses. Schemes have been introduced. And there are so many issues regarding that. Now, why do we require money? See, we require money for various activities, right? Political rallies, marketing, etc., etc. And in some of the cases, it so happens that, see, there is a cost attached to the particular seat allotment. It is reported also, right? You have to pay some specific cost. for that allotment of seat, and we don't have sufficient data in order to make some logical argument, then bribing voters, the data, the money distribution, so much of cash has been recovered, that data is also available. So funding is a really important part, but we don't have really reliable sources. If what happens in case of EBS, how money is generated. And according to me, my understanding that, there is a limit also, some 20,000, 30,000 rupees, where you are not required to disclose identity of the sources. And because of that, I think all political parties are responsible. They create black money, right, where details of identity of sources are not known. So this is, I think, the problem area where we need to ensure transparency and accountability in the functioning of the specific aspect. And for that purpose, there was a judgment by ECIC long back in 2012 or 13, where the political parties were supposed to take care of RTI Act. They have not really respected RTI Act in any case. So we expect some amount of transparency and accountability in the governance of political parties. Then only we can expect some changes or some recognition to, I think, this particular issue, where there is a least possibility or use of money power. Right, next please. Now see, this is evident. This picture is very, very clear. It speaks for itself, right? Money power. You have finances, funding elected candidates, right? Right there, then there is a nexus between the financer and that the candidate, and how this is again. With due respect to all the parties, it is happened. It is known to everybody, right? How cash is distributed, how other benefits like liquor, etc., freebies are being distributed. It is known to everybody, and this is, I think, a better reflection of that approach itself, right? Next, please. Now see that money power, crorepati's winners. See the data collected by ADR. See in 2009, 58% of the total elected representatives, then increased to 82%, and now in 2019, 88%. And it might go to maybe 92%, 95% in 2024, as the case may be. Now see the distribution, right? 2009, 2014, 2019, and next, see the political parties, beneficiaries of this specific equation. Next, please. Right, see, 88% that BJP, Congress, etc. So all political parties are the beneficiaries, and the trend is increasing. Next, please. Right, yeah. Now, see, money power has economical dimensions, and it is known to everybody. Now, politics is not considered social service, or it is not meant for welfare of people. It is a long-term investment, right? It is a long-term investment which provides, I think, benefits for generations, not one particular generation. If a particular person becomes a minister, what happens to his or her generations, I think it is known to everybody. You calculate his or her wealth in case of that after the completion of the term, it is known to everybody. Right? So because of that nexus, because of that quid pro quo, it happens. Right? So politics is an investment, and people join politics in order to take care of the investment and that high returns. So this is also a reflection of that particular fact. And there is a collusion with respect to, I think, due respect to all the parties. It is happening, power sharing, right? So people may go to up to any extent to compromise. They may go to A side or B side. They may join another party, opposition party, to take care of that benefits. So it happens, and it will continue to happen because we are responsible for the state of affairs. Right? We are so greedy. We don't talk about honesty, integrity. We want that outcome. Money is, I think, that is very, very important. You want power. You want money. You want all the benefits. And it happens because of that greed or need, what the case may be. There is no ideology. Right? You might be with a political party. Very next day, if that your seat is not allotted to you, or you don't get that benefit, you don't get that minister's post or another post, you go to B party, collude with them, form a government in order to get the benefit. That's it. It does not go beyond that money collection or that specific benefits, right? So investment, good investment for generations. Right, next please. Right, now see, this is, the ceiling with respect to increase from 20 to 24, 40, then you see 70 to 95 increase in case of small states, 54 to 75. Now, so what happens in that case? Do you think this limit prescribed by Election Commission of India is followed in any case? That is never followed. Because the data with respect to expenditures incurred and the data with respect to the details are shown. I think there is a mismatch. Details are not really maintained. And this is the problem because Election Commission has failed to take care of that the details of expenditure. And there is no accountability also in case there is a mismatch. Right. This is my assumption regarding that. Next, please. Right. Now, you know, model code of conduct, there is a limit also, limit regarding, 50,000 rupees cash limit, right? You can't keep more than 50,000 rupees or 10,000 rupees in other cases. Then there is a misuse of public resources. Yes, rightly pointed out by various speakers, right? Public resources are being misused by all political parties, whether A or B or C. It happens, right? And there is, again, prohibition regarding that specific aspect. But in case of the Supreme Court judgment, Supreme Court time and again has really pointed out this issue that there is a misuse of public offices. There is a use of money or muscle power in election process. But what has happened? Have we really taken care of that specific dimensions? Right? We have model code of conduct. What about other enforcement part? Have we really enacted any legislation? Have we come out with some kind of rules or regulations to really ensure accountability of these people? See, there is a demand, right? There is a demand for criminals. There is a demand for money. Yeah, just one minute, sir. Conclude. Right? Yeah, next, please. Just now, see this data, right? So much of money has been recovered during elections. And I'm not too sure about whether the particular money was recovered from, ruling party or opposition party. Confiscated from A political party or B political party. And I've collected this data from the website of Election Commission of India, right? See the next state. See, there is an increase in all the respects. Gujarat or maybe Tripura, see that quantum in the increase 2017, 2018 to 2020, 22 and 23, right? So this is also a reflection that use of money power. We have also recognized use of money power in election. Next, please. I'll just conclude that. The muscle power, right, used by the candidates when they use criminals for various purposes. And then the candidates themselves are criminals, right? This is the first condition regarding use of muscle powers. Now, use of muscle powers by political parties, right? They use enforcement agencies. I have that picture. The picture is really a reflection of the part. See, political parties use agencies for sharing seats for other purposes also. That is also one of the requirements. Because of time constraint, I won't be in a position to discuss other issues. See the data next, please. Right? The recent judgment, Supreme Court has really examined the impact of that criminals entering into politics, right? Next, see that, yeah, next please. Now see, people with serious criminal charges, see the percentage in case of serious criminal charges and in case of minor offenses. In case of serious charges, see 14% in case of 2009 increased to 22.1%, increased to 2019, then 29%. So it is increasing. Right? This is a reflection of that people are not well informed. People really are not so interested about the background of candidates. Right? See, I have recommended something regarding that part. Next, please. Again, that it is a reflection of political parties. How many people were elected in the 2019 election? Right? BJP, Congress, etc., etc. Next, please. Then minor offenses again. See how many candidates. Next, please. Right? Now, see, muscle power by political parties, that is also, I think, discussed. Enforcement agencies are being used. This issue was discussed by Supreme Court in so many judgments, starting from 2002 to 2018 also. The candidates' details, yes, yeah. I think, yeah, see, this is a reflection of that use of administrative agencies for sheet sharing, etc., etc. Right? See, collected from internet. Right, next please. Right, so the awareness, the literacy is not a reflection of that. Huge money for wealthy candidates. I think I have examined so many aspects and there's these findings and the recommendations also regarding that aspect. Because of time constraint, I won't be in a position to discuss all the issues, recommendations also, just one, yeah. awareness, transparency, and that there should not be any exemption in any case. Everything should be reported. Let it be a 1 rupees or 10 rupees contribution made by somebody. That should also be, I think, reported. Speedy disposal. We require, I think, empowerment of ECI. Judiciary has also contributed that. And collective efforts are required. You cannot blame A government or B government or C government. I think it is we the people who can make a difference. So we must be sensitized. We must be aware of our rights. And there should not be any kind of manipulation.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much.
Political parties. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. I think just one word to be said on behalf of the electorate, that very often it breaks your heart that there is an honest candidate and a decent candidate, and against whom there is a crook and a muscleman, and the crook and the muscleman gets more vote. Okay, so I mean, is there, I can understand if both are crooks and both are musclemen, then you choose one of them. But when you choose, a crook over a kind of seemingly decent person, then I think there is a problem with the way we are also voting. And there are many sociological, economic, behavioral, communal, all kinds of reasons for that. But we can't just blame the political parties alone. We have to blame ourselves also and do a bit of soul searching. May I just say that the discussion was wonderful, and I think the question answer session is going to be even better. This will be conducted by General Verma, because he's known for conducting excellent question answer sessions. So General Verma, please come.
Thank you, Dr. Vipul, for conducting this session. He has to leave because of certain things which has come up suddenly. So we'll start with the question answer sessions, and okay, we'll start from this side. Yes, please.
Thank you, General Verma. I'm Rahul. I've had a long background in the tech industry and then pivoted away to democracy and politics and foreign affairs in the last 3-4 years. My direct question is to Krishna, if I may. I've been particularly engaged with the Congress for the last few months, so it's been nice to see you and hear your views today. You talked about the major pillars of democracy under threat today, and them needing to be protected if we have to have a chance to maintain our legacy of being, the world's most valued, respected, largest, privileged democracy, if I may say. And you ended that statement by saying, on saving these pillars, we should have a referendum, right? I wanted to bring up this report which has been bothering me for the last few days, which is the Pew Research has been quoted as saying 67% of Indians would rather want an autocracy. 72% would rather have military rule. It's a conversation I'm particularly delving into in all my engagements to see what people think about this perspective, right? And what do they think is causing this perspective? What do you think is contributing to this perspective? One, and two, how does it relate to what you feel might be the way forward? Because you want a referendum, but people want a dictatorship. Thank you.
Thanks. So I think what people want can only be answered by a referendum. I wouldn't rely too much on specific surveys. Having said that, I think my point was that unless custodians of institutions that protect the basic framework of the Constitution are secure about their positions and the way they exercise their power, they're going to be susceptible to institutional diktats, arm twisting, and money. So my referendum was, for example, in today's world, maybe this might not have been my view some years ago. If I were to make a change to the way the election commissioners were going to be appointed, I wouldn't probably support the way it has been done now. I would probably say it requires a much wider mandate. So that's the context in which I said it. So when it comes to how public forms their perception or their views, I think a lot of that has to do with what they are presented. So if the media, which has a very important role in forming perceptions, is going to show one face, one party, one line most of the time, then people are likely to consciously or subconsciously gravitate towards that person, party, or line. Now, let's take an extreme example. We have farmers sitting on the borders in Punjab. Now, they have been subjected to pretty serious restraint, and I'm using a word with a lot of restraint, right? Now, news channels apart, X, formerly Twitter, has to come out and say that they haven't been allowed to put out the farmer's side of the story. Now, in such a situation, how do you expect the public to be sympathetic or even understand the other side of the story? So they are probably going to say that X is good because X is seen, because X is shown, because X is heard. Thanks.
Okay, thank you, Krishna. Yes, this gentleman.
Good afternoon, everyone. My question is to.
Please introduce yourself.
My name is Shivankar. I'm a research scholar.
Okay.
My question is to Ms. Reena Gupta. Ma'am, an RTI activist, Manik Goyal from Punjab, recently tweeted, and this tweet is of 6th March, that the Punjab government is misusing state transport, public servants, and public funds in their political rallies, causing inconvenience and depleting the public exchequer solely for the political gain. What are your comments on that? Do you think it is money, muscle, power, anything related to that? And also, the High Court has issued notice on this. He has filed a PIR in Punjab and Haryana High Court.
I don't know what specific incident that you're talking about, but taking one tweet out of context, I can respond to it, but I'll need to know the background. Having said that, I don't think Punjab government or the Delhi government misuses resources, money, muscle, and power. And I mean, I would like to see any inquiry or any.
This is what he has alleged. He's not saying that it is they are doing it. This is what he has alleged. And the High Court has issued a notice on the PIL which he has filed. I just wanted to know your comments on this.
I don't know the context, and I mean, how do I know who this Manik Goyal is, right?
Okay, we'll not labor it further,
Yes.
Reena. Yeah. Next. You've already asked. Yeah, Jaskirat ji. Jaskirat ji is also a trustee of ADR. He's based in Ludhiana, so he would have a better picture.
Yeah. So I come from Punjab and I know Manik personally. Apart from what he said, there is a perception, general perception, because I work with people also because of my ADR work, that Punjab government is spending money in Tamil Nadu, in Kerala on political ads, which obviously have nothing to do with people of Punjab. Bhagwant Man's photo showing up there. That is the kind of thing that Manik has been criticizing for a long time, and a lot of people agree with that. My question, I would frame it like as if a BJP is doing that, should others trying to compete with them do so on similar, tactics and all? Not fair, because people elected them for being different, not for being the same. Thank you.
Yes, let me respond to that. So, just adding on to what Krishna was saying, when you have a media that shows only a particular party and only a particular face all the time and a particular narrative, and also a narrative which is against all opposition parties. There are TV programs day in and day out only on how the opposition parties are doing wrong. Then how do other parties get their story out? How do we talk about the fact that we are doing these XYZ things for farmers in Punjab, or for the students of Delhi, or for the women of Delhi? Then you have to put out your perspective. But again, let's put it in perspective that I can speak for Delhi, that Delhi government spends less than 1% of our budget on advertising. And I don't even think there is any data out there on how much the central government spends, because it's spent across ministries and across PSUs. So I don't think anybody has even been able to put together how much money they are spending. So when the field is so unequal, then I think it's important that we also have to get our story out. And a lot of times, advertisement is the only way to get our story out.
Okay. Yeah, this lady here.
Hello, my name is Ishita. I work in research in policy and economics. Thank you so much for your comments. Reena ji, you made a very interesting point about how we should have more people, like more good people in politics, people who won't use money and muscle power, people who will work for the benefit of the people. And I'd be really interested to hear from you and Krishna ji how AAP and Congress recruits such candidates and prepares them to uphold this role even when they are in a position of power.
Yeah, I would like to add to what she, because I also had a similar question from both the political parties. What are the political parties doing to change the current system wherein money and muscle power has become normalized? And the political parties say, भाई वोटर तो पैसे मांग रहा है हमारे से, हम क्या करें? So how is this I mean, how are things going to improve if both sides, the demand and supply sides, are like this? Please.
So in terms of, I think Aam Aadmi Party is very proactively trying to invite youth, people like you, a lot of you sitting in this room. We have several programs, fellowship programs, where volunteer programs, where we hope that people will come and join, get to know, learn the system, and then slowly want to contribute and move up the ranks. I'm one such example. I joined the party as a volunteer. And in terms of money, I think at least our experience in Delhi and Punjab is that even the voters have become smart. They do take money, but then they go and vote for whichever party they think will get them, what they've promised.
That is
for.
what I stated. That is the problem. So what are the political parties doing, or are we just going to carry on like this?
So I mean, as far as Aam Aadmi Party is concerned, we don't distribute cash ever for any election. We are very sure about that. It's a very hard stand that we've taken. No cash in elections, and that's probably the reason why, we are not growing as much as we would. We should be growing because we don't have the resources. But so, I mean, the field is not level. There's no doubt about that. It's very difficult for people who don't have money and muscle power to get into politics and get elected. And that's where I say that, of course, people have to be able to get out there and say that, yes, I will get dirty and, I will get into this mud and I will, do my best. But at the same time, the larger society will have to contribute towards financing these people. So the model has to change, the business model has to change. And that's the only way we'll change the politics of the country.
Thank you. Krishna, what would you say to this?
Thanks. I'll just try and speak a little shortly. So I'm in charge of the youth wing, and we're trying a few different things here. I do not speak for the older side of the party, and I think a lot needs to change in the youth wing, in the senior party, as well as other parties. So there are 2 or 3 things that we are trying to make it easier for young talent from ordinary backgrounds to be able to enter politics. First is we run an internal democracy. So people who have to join the organization have to come in through a membership process. So it's relatively more accessible, especially at the entry level, at the lower levels. So you don't have to have a godfather. You don't need to know anybody. You can find and come in on your own. Second thing we found is even though we run this system, we still find some critical talent difficult to come by, which is, for example, women. We still don't get enough women as we would want in the Youth Congress. So for that, we've opened up 2 or 3 different channels where we are trying to enforce the 33% reservation. So we have it in the national body of the Youth Congress. We've had it for 3 years now. We've had 33% women. We're trying to push it down to the district, state, and block levels. And we were struggling, so we've introduced something called Indira Fellowships. I think the response has been promising. We see more new talent coming in. As far as trying to bring in cleaner politics, so anybody who has to contest a Youth Congress election cannot have the same kind of criminal record, so you would be debarred. So that's one serious step. In fact, our bar is higher than what the ECI mandates for MLA and MP elections. The second thing is the Youth Congress is probably, when it comes to money, in my knowledge, the only political organization in this country which runs on transparent membership-driven funding model. Over the years, we have created a white money corpus, and our white money is white. It doesn't have to go through a laundry or a washing machine before it gets white. So we are trying to attempt and make it easier for younger talent, for women, to remove criminal elements and to ensure that money is more transparent above board as far as we can. And we are open to most suggestions which will help us do our work better.
Yeah, thank you, Krishna. He just wants to add, and then Professor Sastry.
Right. See, what is important in case of election? Winnability. Right? Not his background, whether he's a criminal or not criminal, whether he's honest or not, qualification, or his caste. In most of the cases, winnability, I think, becomes very important. And it is evident from records also. I know one professor of law. He contested assembly election, right? He lost his security deposit. So it happens because there is no demand for honesty and integrity. You must be in a position to manipulate the system. For that purpose, you require resources. You require muscle power. And winnability, I think that is the only relevant requirement for all political parties. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Professor Shastri, just
You mentioned 2 things. One is that in the Youth Congress, you have only white money, and number 2, that people with criminal records are not allowed inside the or not allowed to contest.
Yeah.
So let's assume this is true. We'll take it at face value. Why doesn't the larger Congress party use this for their campaigns? Whether they are able to do it inside their party, understand. But why don't they tell the people of India that हम अपनी party को बिल्कुल स्वच्छ बना रहे हैं, so that they can get political mileage out of it?
The short answer is because the senior Congress hasn't done it. The senior Congress hasn't done it.
Okay. My other question to the panelist is, like, one of my favorite topics is this business of the political parties declaring reasons as to why they are selecting certain candidates. And there are at least 4 Supreme Court judgments on this. So we are very good at passing good judgments, but they are not implemented. This started after the first last Bihar elections, and then somebody filed a PIL, and then the election commission, the Supreme Court directed penalty to be imposed on 8 or 10 political parties, ranging from 1 lakh, 2 lakhs, or something like that. Even after that, so many elections have taken place. And ADR published, because I make it a point that you please see on the websites what reasons are they giving, how many details have been published. And if you see our reports, you will find that 50 to 60% of the details are not shown. Like if a guy has got 20 criminal cases, sometimes 15 will be shown. We know because we have the data. We cross-check it. The reasons given for selecting. कोविड में बहुत अच्छा काम किया था. I'm giving, and let me tell you, if there are 20 candidates, 18 will have the same wording, reason for selection. So it is ridiculous state of affairs, and so that is why I'm asking, what efforts are being made to field clean candidates? That is the issue. You can keep blaming the public कि जी public पैसा मांगती है, freebies मांगती है, ये वो. So, but it has to be something from the side of the political parties also. Coming to the electoral bond thing. Now you say it was a unequal playing field, किसी को कम मिला, इस पार्टी को सबसे ज़्यादा मिला. But the fact is आपने भी accept किया. If you are against the principle, then why did you accept money from electoral bonds? So there is a bit of a duplicity, so which we feel, you need to address. And of course, you can say society ऐसी है, the candidates also come from the same type of people, तो हम क्या करें जी? So I know it's a very complex and a very difficult thing to change, but efforts have to be made somewhere, and it has to be started from the political parties. That's what I think. You may comment.
So
Ma'am,
I will
give a chance to
just
others.
quickly comment. I think when it comes to criminal candidates, the law is set that X is the criteria for criminal candidates. If they go above that, they will be disqualified. If they're below that, they will be admitted. Now, I'm not saying that that law should not become more stringent. I'm saying wherever the laws of the Land and the Election Commission allow a certain individual to contest an election, and if that person has more serious criminal cases, then obviously the Election Commission can disbar them. Now, the fact of the matter is that as much as we try to bring in more new candidates, like data has shown, like examples have been given, sometimes in front of a Brijbhushan, you might not put another Brijbhushan, but you might want to have at least somebody who can look him in the eye and say, hey, let people in this polling vote as they want. But on the electoral bonds, I do want to make a point. Our stand on electoral bonds when the law was passed in 18 was the same as it is today. But when you pass a law, and that is the only way to get funding, however bad that law is, now for any political party to say, hey, we will not accept funds through electoral bonds because that's the way to get funds, is not an option. That's in theory we can say, hey, this is an opaque system. We will not accept funds. But where does that leave us? We are left with no other channel to get quote unquote transparent money. So our stand hasn't changed. My point is, if the system is more opaque than the earlier one, and it was put in front of the judiciary, and it's an important matter, I feel, and this is my view, that the Supreme Court should have stayed it then and then decided it quickly. Anyway, thanks.
Thank you, Krishna.
I can just add
And
very
let
quickly
me,
to
for
what-
the people who don't know, CPIM was the only political party which did not accept electoral funds. Yes, please.
Yes, so just to add to that, like I was saying earlier, when Aam Aadmi Party started, all our funds and our donors were on our website along with their PAN cards. And then we saw how that went. Everybody was being harassed, people stopped giving us money. So I think we should also remember that political parties are here to contest and to win. Uh, it's really not an NGO. It is a political party, and at the end of the day, we need resources. And as a society, if we are ready to fund religious programs, we are ready to fund bhandaras, but we are not ready to fund political parties, then how do we expect political parties to get clean money?
Okay,
So-
so we'll leave it at that now, I think enough. Yeah. Please introduce yourself.
Yes, I'm audible. My name is Aditya Dubey, and I'm a political activist working with a youth movement called Yuva Halla Bol. मेरा सवाल बहुत बहुत सिंपल सवाल है मेरा, क्योंकि मैं एक पॉलिटिकल एक्टिविस्ट हूँ, 3-4 सालों से एक्टिविज्म कर रहा हूँ, तो मेरे अंदर अंदर भी पॉलिटिकल जिज्ञासा है और एम्बिशंस है पॉलिटिक्स को लेके। मतलब आई डोंट वांट टू बी अ पॉलिटिकल एक्टिविस्ट जो कि सिर्फ एक्टिविज्म करे। मैं अगर इलेक्टोरली भी,
सवाल पूछिए
सर सवाल ही, अगर इलेक्टोरली ही मैं अगर चुनाव लड़ना चाहूँ, तो मुझे जो सबसे बड़ा स्टेक होल्डर जो इस देश में पॉलिटिक्स को लेके है वो है पॉलिटिकल पार्टीज। तो मुझे पॉलिटिकल पार्टीज में अप्रोच करना पड़ेगा। देयर इज अ प्रोविजन इन द इलेक्शंस इन द रिप्रेजेंटेशन ऑफ पीपल्स एक्ट आल्सो कि इफ यू डोंट want to represent yourself as a political member, then you can contest election as an independent candidate. 550 कॉन्स्टिट्यूएंसीज हमारे देश में हैं। अगर मैं वहाँ पे अगर डेटा निकालूं तो हर कॉन्स्टिट्यूएंसी में ऑलमोस्ट 10 to 15 कैंडिडेट्स होते हैं जो इंडिपेंडेंटली कंटेस्ट करते हैं, बट उसमें से जीतता नहीं है कोई। लेस देन 10% इंडिपेंडेंट कैंडिडेट्स राइट नाउ आर प्रेजेंट इन द लोकसभा, उससे भी कम है शायद। और ये जो डेटा है ये और कम ही होते जा रही है। तो मैं अगर सबसे बड़े स्टेक होल्डर्स जितनी भी पॉलिटिकल पार्टीज हैं क्रॉस पॉलिटिकल स्पेक्ट्रम, अगर मैं वो ज्वाइन नहीं करना चाहता हूँ, एंड इफ आई वांट टू कंटेस्ट एन इलेक्शन, एन इंडियन इलेक्शन इंडिपेंडेंटली, क्या चांसेस है मेरे पास? और मुझे लगता है कि चांसेस नहीं है आज के समय में, नेग्लिजिबल चांसेस है, क्योंकि ना मेरे पास रिसोर्स है, ना मेरे पास पार्टी का सिंबल है, और ना ही मेरे पास कोई वैसा फेस वैल्यू है जो कि मैं नेशनल लेवल पे किसी को लेके आऊं और उनको फिर मैं कैंपेनिंग में इन्वॉल्व करूं। तो क्या सिर्फ एक प्रोविजन रख देने से क्या हमारा इलेक्शन डेमोक्रेटिक हो जाएगा कि इवन इफ यू डोंट गेट अ चांस फ्रॉम अ पॉलिटिकल पार्टी, देन ऑल्सो यू कैन contest the election independently? So I wanted to ask from Reena ma'am and also from Krishna sir कि इंडिपेंडेंट कैंडिडेट्स के लिए क्या उपाय हो सकता है, कितना ज्यादा हमारे सिस्टम को और सही करना चाहिए, क्योंकि अगर जो व्यक्ति पॉलिटिकल एम्बिशंस लेके चल रहा है वो चुनाव कैसे जीत सकता है?
We got it.
Thank you.
So if anybody of you can kindly.
I can attempt.
Well, what I can say is that the independents जो अभी contest कर रहे हैं as per our data, वो भी सारे करोड़पति हैं, ज़्यादा से ज़्यादा। और वो किस लिए आते हैं कि किस तरफ पाला झुकेगा उधर ज्वाइन कर लेंगे। This is my view. You may add.
But I think there were examples in the past where I'm forgetting the names. There were a few candidates which continued to win for several years because they did very good work in their area.
Yeah.
तो इस समय तो बहुत मुश्किल लग रहा है, बट एक यही तरीका है कि आप कोई अपना क्षेत्र चुनें, वहाँ पे काम करें, लोगों को काम करवाएं, तो 5-6 साल में आप एक नाम बना सकते हैं और जीत सकते हैं। इस जन्म में नहीं तो अगले जन्म में तो नहीं, इतना निराशावादी नहीं होना चाहिए।
Okay, Krishna, you want to add? Okay.
बहुत शॉर्ट में आई थिंक हमारे देश में जब चुनाव की हम बात करते हैं तो सीधा एमपी से शुरू करते हैं और एमएलए पे जाके रुक जाते हैं। लेकिन उससे नीचे जो चुनाव है, कोई भी यंग पर्सन जो आम परिवारों से आता है, जो अपने काम पे अपने दम पे चुनाव जीत के आगे बढ़ना चाहता है, उनके लिए लोकल बॉडीज से बेटर अपॉर्चुनिटी नहीं है। मैं ये नहीं कह रहा हूँ कि आप एमपी एमएलए नहीं लड़ना चाहिए, वहाँ पे आप शुरू करोगे, आपके दम पे आपके काम पे सरपंच चुनना, ज़िला पंचायत चुनने के चांसेस ज़्यादा हैं। और एक बार आप काउंसलर, कॉरपोरेटर, ज़िला पंचायत या सरपंच बनते हो तो आप ऑटोमेटिकली पॉलिटिकल पार्टीज़ के नज़र में आ जाते हो। तो मेरा सुझाव ये रहेगा कि वो रूट इज़ प्रॉबली बेटर। थैंक यू।
Okay, thank you. We'll just take 2 last questions. Yeah. Okay, आप बताइए।
My name is Sana, and I'm a graduate in political science. So you were, my question is to Mr. Krishnan. So you were telling about the institutionalization of money and muscle power. If you look at the history of this, you will see that how the nexus of crime, criminalization of politics intensified during and post-emergency. And in that sense, if you see, don't you think today, if we are at this position, it's also the incompetency and failure of the largest opposition in this country to combat that?
So I think it is a fair point that money and muscle have played a role in India, both at the individual candidate level and at an institutional level after independence. There have been times when, like for example, you said the emergency, where it has spiked and then it has probably come down to a better place. What I said is that in the last 10 years, the trajectory has probably grown or spiked at an uncomfortably fast rate. Is the Congress responsible for this? Partly, sure. How much more could we have done is debatable. We would have liked to do more and we would have wanted to do more. But when you have such weaponization of institutional power, and this is not just the Congress saying it, right? It makes it extremely difficult to reduce this just as an individual political party. I think where we are today, we can blame the opposition, the largest opposition party, the Congress, and partly we are to blame. And we can blame the rest of the opposition parties. But the point is, we are where we are today. And if we have to move forward, I think the solution will require coordination and work, not just across political parties, but beyond political parties as well.
Okay, thank you. Last question. Yeah.
Hello everyone, मेरा नाम रिया है and I am a news reporter at ABP News. Please, it's a request, do not relate my introduction to the question that I'm going to ask. And my question is to you, ma'am. दिल्ली में जब इस डिस्कशन की शुरुआत की थी तो हमने फ्रीबीज के बारे में बात की थी. However, I'm not opposed to the idea. Even personally, I'm really not opposed to the idea because एक एग्जाम्पल देना चाहती हूँ. मैंने अपनी ग्रेजुएशन गार्गी कॉलेज से की है और मेरी खुद की क्लास में बहुत सारी ऐसी लड़कियां थीं जो रेगुलर क्लासेस इसलिए अटेंड कर पाई क्योंकि दिल्ली में बसेस फ्री थी और वो बस से आ जा सकती थी और उनको मेट्रो का किराया रोज नहीं देना पड़ता था. So it's a good thing. However, the latest thing that has come up, which is giving 1,000 rupees to a woman per month, उसमें भी conditions हैं, लेकिन इस पर 3 पॉइंट पे मेरे सवाल हैं आपसे कि यदि हम वाकई में महिलाओं को एम्पावर करना चाह रहे हैं तो क्या उनको किसी स्किल की ट्रेनिंग देना बेहतर नहीं होगा 1,000 रुपए देने से? क्योंकि वो 1,000 रुपए जब उस महिला के खाते में जा रहे हैं, इस बात को कौन इंश्योर करेगा? We live in a patriarchal society. Who is going to ensure that the husband or anybody else, male in the family, is not snatching that money? And thirdly, जब जस्टिस मदान ने जब शुरुआत की थी इस डिस्कशन की तो उन्होंने ये कहा था कि जो गवर्नमेंट होती है जब इलेक्शन आने वाले होते हैं तो फ्रीबीज इस तरीके की अनाउंसमेंट होती है और गवर्नमेंट पर बहुत ज़्यादा बर्डन बनता है, मॉनेटरी बर्डन बनता है. तो ये भी एक मॉनेटरी बर्डन है. और तीसरा जो मेरा आखिरी पॉइंटर है इस पर वो ये कि यदि वाकई में महिला सशक्तिकरण की बात करनी थी और 1,000 रुपए देकर महिला सशक्तिकरण की बात करनी थी तो वो अभी क्यों हुआ?
I'll answer all your questions. सबसे पहले तो हर सरकार जो होती है, हर सरकार का एक रेवेन्यू होता है, एक्सपेंडिचर होता है. वो टैक्सेस से अपने रेवेन्यू बनाती है और फिर डिसाइड करती है पैसा कहाँ खर्च करना है. तो ये जब लोगों ने सरकार को चुन लिया उसके बाद सरकार का दायित्व है कि वो उसको स्पेंड करे. एक सरकार डिसाइड करती है कि हम 4,000 करोड़ की मूर्ति बनाएंगे, वो भी उसको अलाउड है करना. दूसरी सरकार डिसाइड करती है कि हम हर महिला के खाते में 1,000 रुपये देंगे. तो ये एज लॉन्ग एज यू आर मैनेजिंग योर फाइनेंसेस वेल, सरकार के ऊपर कर्जा नहीं चढ़ रहा है, जो कि दिल्ली सरकार के ऊपर नहीं चढ़ रहा है. दिल्ली सरकार अभी भी मुनाफे में है. CAG की रिपोर्ट है दैट दिल्ली स्टेट फाइनेंसेस आर बेस्ट मैनेज इन द कंट्री. मेरी रिपोर्ट नहीं है. टू आंसर योर फर्स्ट क्वेश्चन ऑन फाइनेंसेस. सेकेंडली, इट इज़ नॉट एन ईदर और सिचुएशन कि आप महिलाओं को 1,000 रुपये दे रहे हैं उनके खाते में तो आप उनकी स्किल ट्रेनिंग नहीं करेंगे. स्किल ट्रेनिंग भी करेंगे, 1,000 रुपये भी देंगे. आपको शायद उस 1,000 रुपये का महत्व समझ में नहीं आएगा, लेकिन जो एक गरीब महिला जिसके पास इस समय कुछ भी नहीं है उसके अपने खाते में, उसको हर चीज़ के लिए अपने हस्बैंड, अपने भाई, अपने बाप के ऊपर डिपेंड होना पड़ता है, उससे आप जाके पूछिए उसके लिए 1,000 रुपये का कितना महत्व है. तीसरी बात, ऑब्वियसली कोई भी सरकार जब कुछ अनाउंस करेगी तो वो सरकार उसका बेनिफिट चाहेगी ना. कोई यहाँ पे कोई हम लोग कोई साधु महात्मा नहीं है ना. We also want to benefit, so we will announce it when we want to announce it. It's at the eve of the elections.
Okay, thank you. I think we'll end the question answer session here now, and Professor Shastri? Jaskirat ji? We have concluded the session now. I'll request you to give the concluding remarks. About 10 minutes. Up to you.
So first of all, a big thanks to the speakers. Thank you for coming. And a big thanks to all of you who have participated enthusiastically. And a big thanks to all the people who asked questions. Because the purpose of this is, we have been discussing within ADR that younger people need to get more and more engaged in these kind of issues. And we are all happy to see that quite a lot of young people are here. And please do send us any suggestions you have. We are there on the website. And a couple of things I want to say is that, we are at a situation, I'm not only talking about ADR, and I think Krishna very sort of briefly referred to it, that the change cannot come only from political parties. It has to come from the society at large. And that society at large means that ADR is one small organization, but we need many more organized activities, not only in Delhi but around the country. But this is what I will close with. You see, democracy doesn't come free. Apart from engaging in it, people have to also pay for democracy. We say that big money is coming into elections and money power is there. Yes, it's a problem, and we don't want to add to what the speakers have said. If you don't want big money, then each one of us should give 100 rupees or 1000 rupees to our favorite political party or a favorite candidate. Are we willing to pay for democracy, or we are only going to say कि उनको उधर से पैसा नहीं मिलना चाहिए? Number one. Number two, if you are giving 1000 rupees to your favorite candidate during the election, give 100 rupees once in a while to people like ADR as well. Because, no, I'm भीख मांग रहा हूँ, I agree, but problem क्या होती है कि in this mahal of institutionalized muscle power, what is happening is that many of the people, they are now openly afraid of giving large money to organizations like ADR. So these are the two requests. Please keep participating. Send us your suggestions. Engage not only with ADR, with other organizations and even the political parties. And please donate money to the political parties individually, and please donate money to organizations like ADR. And thanks a lot to General Verma and all the young people who have organized it. And thank you once again for having come here.
I wish to thank Reena, Krishna and Dr. Maan again for the valuable suggestions and points which you've covered. And we can now move for lunch. Thank you very much for all the interesting observations.